I used to have recurring dreams where I was like being carried by this woman in waist-deep water at night, and that's like the only memory I have of us crossing.
I remember a specific occasion. It was New Year's Eve. We were coming home and they're having a sobriety check. But at the time, both my parents are undocumented, and they were confiscating their cars if they didn't have a license. And my dad was very nervous and my mom was crying, and luckily that cop had some compassion, and she saw that my dad hadn't been drinking and driving, and so she let us go. We were only like 2 blocks from our house. My name is Gerardo Gómez. I am 22 years old. I was born in Guerrero, Mexico, and I came to the United States when I was only 3 years old. I am a DACA recipient.
My parents, they met in León, Guanajuato, and I was born there with my older brother and my younger sister. My dad, he was a recent architecture graduate, so he'd been working in an architecture firm, but at the time, he wasn't really able to successfully provide for us. My mom tried going to get a visa, but that didn't really work out, and so the only other pathway she had was just, kind of leaving everything behind and taking us with her to cross the desert. When I was a kid, I always just thought that like we were one of those visa overstayers. I thought that like we had come legally. But growing up, there was always this like inherent sense of fear.
My parents always reminded me that they brought me here for a better life, and that if you worked hard, you could succeed. So I focused my life and my attention on trying to make a better life than my father and my mother. I graduated high school with a 4.3 GPA. I did sports, I was varsity tennis. I got into, my dream school, to UC Berkeley. That's where it becomes real, where you're ready to hit that next step, and you're reminded that in all other ways you see yourself as American, but the government doesn't.
The part that hit me the hardest was just really going to college. I had aspirations, despite initially not wanting to go there and feeling really ashamed that I was going to a community college, even though I had a pretty stellar educational track record. Community college is where I kind of found this desire to organize and to fight and advocate for tuition equity for undocumented students. When I graduated and went to UCLA, I continued that activism, but really ramped it up and started lobbying at the state level.
I live in San Francisco. We're in a sanctuary city. So I qualify for healthcare services here. And as a gay male, it's important for me because 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with HIV, and my medical services are provided through the city, including my medication. And with DACA being repealed, there are still services I can get in the United States. What it means is fighting for survival, fighting for my health. Especially in rural parts of Mexico, it's still extremely hard to be an out male, much less an out male with HIV. So if I were to be deported, I probably couldn't survive in specifically Guerrero with the queer violence that's there, and the lack of understanding and what it means to be HIV positive. Once I got DACA, I was able to be self-sufficient. So I worked full-time. At one point, I worked two jobs and was going to school full-time. I'm at Pangea Legal Services downtown, and they're a low-cost nonprofit law firm that specifically handles defensive immigration. So all the clients we see are in different stages of deportation. I do want to become an immigration attorney specifically and work either at a nonprofit or a low-cost firm where people have more access to the services they need. And that's why Pangea inspired me. There are lawyers who work at Pangea who used to be and are still undocumented who are working with these clients directly. We can be the lawyers, we can be the advocates as well. We don't just have to be the clients, right?
There were moments where I felt like DACA was something that I didn't want, because for me, I felt like if I applied for DACA, I'm willingly giving my personal information, which means I'm giving my family's information to a government agency that also houses the agency that deports immigrants. Implicitly, my parents were being super criminalized for a choice that they felt they really needed to make. And I wouldn't have been, that typical dreamer if it wasn't for my parents.
Oftentimes, I think, especially right now, there's a current conversation of the deserving and the undeserving, the idea that, yeah, we got DACA, but only 800,000 of us got DACA up to this point. And it's important to remember that there's 11 million undocumented immigrants, right? The maid who works at the hotel is just as deserving. The carpenter is just as deserving. The men standing outside of Home Depot, they're just as deserving. We're human.
DACA has really been beneficial these past 5 years. For me, it's been really a blessing to be able to continue to do the work that I was doing as a student, but now be able to do it on a much broader scale, meaning I have way more resources to be able to share the kinds of information at workshops that I was already sharing to community folks, and just have a broader impact than I would have ever imagined.
I fight for immigration reform because we're American and we deserve to be seen that way. Because immigration is my life. It's my mom, it's my dad, it's my cousins, it's my aunts, it's my friends. What DACA means to me is that first step, not the last step.
I've come to terms with the possibility of being deported and what my activism means, and I'm okay with that.